If you're an author or plan to be one, get excited because this podcast is for you. Book Marketing Mentors is the only podcast dedicated to helping you successfully market and sell your book. If you're ready for empowering conversations with successful marketing mavens, then grab a coffee or tea and listen in to your host, international best-selling author Susan Friedmann.
Welcome to Book Marketing Mentors, the weekly podcast where you learn proven strategies, tools, ideas, and tips from the masters. Every week, I introduce you to a marketing master who will share their expertise to help you market and sell more books. Today, my special guest is Noemi Beres. Noemi is the co-owner of Podcast Connections, a podcast booking agency helping entrepreneurs and business owners share their knowledge, grow authority, and connect with quality podcast shows. With a background in online marketing since 2007 and a master's degree in Danish literature and language, she's a linguist, a content creator, a master organizer, and she is based in Cyprus. Noemi, I am so thrilled to invite you to be this guest on our show, the guest expert, and thank you. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Susan. It's a pleasure to be here. I was really looking forward to this conversation.
I've been looking forward to it too, because we've got so many people in common, even though you live in Cyprus, and people are like, how is this happening? And we're just talking that yesterday, you spoke with a good friend of mine, and we just have several people that we know in common, which big, small world. I love it.
I know. World is just getting smaller and smaller. It's so much fun.
It is. And podcasting plays a role in that, especially for authors. And as you know, I mean, I work with so many nonfiction authors, and I feel that podcasting is one of the primary marketing tools for them to get out there and share their information. Let's talk about this whole being on a podcast, preparing for the podcast. So let's start at the beginning. How would an author start preparing for being on a podcast?
That's a great question, and it's an important one for authors. I mean, first and foremost, start with research. It's really important. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, there are so many podcast hosts out there, and they have their podcasts on these platforms. So you can just do a search, obviously, and find those podcasts that the most align with your business, with your message, with your story. And listen to some of the podcast episodes, previous episodes, to get a feel for the host style and the topics are typically covered. Because believe it or not, Susan, but many people, they don't do that. They just reach out to the hosts and that's it. Sometimes they have nothing to do with the host podcast. So that's why it's crucial, it's key to listen to some of the previous podcast episodes when you do your research, so you know what the podcast is about. I think that's the first and most important step.
I have to agree with you there, because I get pitched for podcasts 2-3 times a week sometimes. I know that if I go and look at my email now, there's at least 1 or 2 pitches. A PR company or whoever is trying to get a position on a podcast for their client just sees the word book in my book marketing mentors, and they think, oh, she's about books. Yeah, my client wrote a book. I was like, you don't know anything about my podcast. If that's what you think I do, that I interview guests just because they have a book. I don't know if you have a book. Do you have a book? I don't think you do. Do you?
No, I don't. Not yet. We always say not yet. I mean, yes. not yet.
But yet you're a perfect guest for my show.
Yeah,
so
because
having a book is not critical for being on the show.
No, exactly. I mean, as long as the podcast that align with your expertise, the target audience, the niche, it's so important. So look for shows that share similar themes or topics relevant to your brand. I mean, that's key.
Yes, I love that. You use my favorite word, niche. So we'll come back to that. But listening to the podcast too beforehand, even the people who I interview, I do ask that they listen to an episode, but I know many of them don't. And it's a shame because it saves a lot of explaining how I run the show. I mean, I've got a certain protocol, even though it seems sometimes that there isn't, but I do have a format that I like to follow. It's really helpful, at least so that they get to know a little bit about me. I mean, I do a lot of research on my guests. I always think it would be nice if they did it about me and my show too, but whatever, I can't make them do that.
And that's why we have our strategy call. And when we have a strategy call with our clients or potential clients, we always explain them. That's like, please do listen to at least one of the episodes before the actual interview. And I did it too before I got on your show today. It's important. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I did actually ask you that question.
Yes, you did.
I knew the answer, but I did want to check. But yes. So let's talk about, so we've done the research and let's say we find a handful of podcasts, 5, 10 podcasts that might be a good fit for us. What next?
You need to write that pitch, which is not a nice word, but we still use that in this business. And you need something that you can stand out with. When you reach out to podcast hosts, always craft a personalized and attention-grabbing pitch. It's so important. Explain why you'd be an excellent guest, highlight your unique perspective, and what value you can offer to the audience. Because podcast interviews are not about promoting your book all the time and, oh, you can find this and that in my book. No, it's not. It's not a promotion space. It is, and there's a space and time for that. But the most important thing is that you add value to everything, whatever you do. And it's the same in the podcasting world. When you get on a show, the most important thing is to add value to the listeners, give them tips, give them tricks. There's something, good takeaways, golden nuggets that are really important. Because we can talk, for ages, but the most important thing is to help the listeners with important key takeaways.
Yeah, that's so critical. And that's something, as you know, that when we talked before, I mean, that's one of the most important parts of this show is that I want my guests to be sharing practical tools, techniques, ideas, whatever, but something that the listener can go away with and say, wow, I can do that, or I can find out more about that. Because that for me, if a listener says that, then I feel, wow, it's been successful. Yes, and adding that value. And also remembering that the book is a tool. You are not the book, but so much of you is in the book. Talk about that and talk about the value that the book offers, but you're not necessarily selling the book, but yes, you can mention it. I mean, absolutely. I like that. I think that's a critical point in that. One of the things that I find with guests, Noemi, is that they often talk too much. So,
I like that.
It's not a conversation, it becomes a monologue. Talk to us about that being a no-no.
Yeah. It's part of kind of being respectful with the whole space as well, because you are a guest on a show. But it's also necessary to understand that this is a friendly conversation between two people. It needs to have a flow. It needs to have a back and forth between the two people. So try to avoid a monologue. And yes, you can share your story. Yes, you can talk about your book, but not for 5 minutes straight. I mean, this is not that space. Maybe if you can shorten it down, like maybe for 2 minutes or something when you have a story to share. Because it's so much better if you do that, especially if it's an interview 40 minutes long, you can have 5-10 minutes monologues. Because first, I don't think it's respectful to the host the host is just sitting there and listening to you. It's important to have a flow of the conversation and to respect that. And once you have that flow, everything is just so much easier. And the listeners will tune in and won't leave the show. I think that's important because you are engaging, and you speak clearly and with enthusiasm, and try to be just, conversational rather than stiff or formal and talking about yourself all the time. I think that's crucial when you are a guest in a podcast.
Yes, I love that word respect, because often they don't have that respect, even though they say they will. Keep it short, sweet, and simple. As you say, sometimes they do go on. And then I'm just waiting for them to take a breath when I can say their name and say, okay, let's move on without saying that. But I find a way of changing the conversation away from this monologue that they've been going on and on about. So, yes. Well, that's a good way in terms of keeping the conversation engaging too. How can they do without feeling rehearsed? There's nothing worse. People want me to ask them the exact questions. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. But I'm not going to try and catch you out. I just want you to speak naturally. So talk to us about that. Do you offer your clients some training in how to conduct a conversation? What's your preparation?
I would say most of the clients that I start to work with, they are already speakers. So they were on stages. And I'm not saying everyone was on podcast interviews, but most of them are already speakers. So they have some kind of idea how does it work. But of course, podcast is a little different than being a keynote speaker. I try to help them and try to be better guests and give them tips and tricks how to do that. But the most important thing, whether you are an author, whether you are a leadership coach or a sales marketing expert, it's really important to come prepared. Have a clear understanding of what you want to talk about and prepare some key points, or we can call them topics and talking points to guide the conversation. And you can have a little cheat sheet or something, next to your monitor and next to you. So just to rely on if you, for example, forget something but never wing a conversation. Always come prepared. Always have those talking points and topics ready, and always have some stories ready, because these are the examples that can showcase your expertise. And in this way, you can really provide valuable insights during the interview.
So talk to us about some of these tips for during the interview. Let's say the host is often prepared or hopefully prepared, but
Yes,
maybe
hopefully.
they're not. Yes, maybe they're not, and they sort of run dry for a few moments. What might be a tip that a guest could help them with, with that back and forth, if you're listening to, like I'm listening to you and getting involved in the conversation of what you're saying, but in the same way, I'm making this assumption that you're listening to me and what I'm saying. So what happens when, let's say, the host is like, where do we go from here?
Yeah, what you just said, Susan, is so important, because some guests just, repeating the script that they always use on different podcasts. They may not be truly present, because listening, like active listening, being present is so important during a conversation, because sometimes you're not there. And especially when the host has a problem like that. So what to do now? Obviously, you can help them out a little bit. Sense of humor always goes a long way, I think, when we have that, because we are human, we make mistakes, and that's okay if we have like a short pause or something. I think you can come out of it pretty well if you have a sense of humor. And also, if you just try to be yourself and engage authentically with the host, with the audience, I think it's smile or, I think it just comes naturally. But the other thing is it comes with practice. So I'm not saying that you be a perfect guest during the first conversation that you have, but with practice, with a couple of months and years, it definitely helps to solve this kind of, problems or situations when you end up like that.
Yes, it definitely. And I, as you know, I recently had my 500th episode of this podcast.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I just can't believe it. But 10 years of experience, starting out with some horrendous episodes where I was obviously much tighter about the conversation I couldn't relax in the same way, and not necessarily having good guests. But I still put it out there just because if you start waiting for perfection, that never happens. And I screw up. I know I do. Now I just sort of make fun of it, as you say, that sense of humor. Something you also said that I think is very important, and that is smiling. That
Yeah.
we're doing this audio only, so you can't see me. The listeners can't see you, but they can hear if you're smiling. I can hear if
Absolutely.
you're smiling. You can hear if I'm smiling.
Yeah.
It just makes for a much lighter and more fun conversation. And I think it may be even easier to listen to. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, 100%. It's so funny because I just wrote a blog, not blog post, a LinkedIn post about this today. And today, or one of those days when I wrote about it, it's about the language, the tone of our voice, how we use it. It's so important. And it makes such a huge difference because if you sit there and talk like this, everybody probably think that you're not smiling because it makes a huge difference. So the tone of your voice, even if they don't see your face, your energy, your vibe, the smiles, people can hear it, people can feel it.
Mm-hmm. And even if they do see you, I mean, they want to see that you're smiling. They want to see that you're enjoying the experience.
Yeah.
Because it should be an enjoyable experience. I mean, if you don't want to be there, then don't do it,
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, it's your choice. You are a guest here.
Yeah, exactly. You're a guest. You're a guest in somebody else's home. Yes. I like that. Yes, I know I'm the host, but the host with the most, yes, but or the hostess with the mostest. Let's talk about etiquette. You talked about, okay, in the beginning, the pitch letter, and I, like you, I don't like that word, but that's the word that people use, and personalizing it so that it sounds as if you've done your research on the show. But what about after the show? Is there some kind of etiquette that you encourage your clients to take part in?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Promote the episode. Please do promote the episode because believe it or not, Susan, and I think you believe it because probably you saw that happening. There's so many people out there. They are guests on several podcasts and they never, ever promote the episode. And I heard that so many times from different podcast hosts that I've been working with or podcast I was a guest on, that they always tell me that, like, Noemi, I don't understand why they don't promote it after the episode release because it's so important. At the end of the day, podcast marketing, podcast guesting is a marketing strategy. That's how you promote your book if you are an author. So please do share it on your social media channels as many times as you want because you are creating evergreen content. And as my dear friend and mentor Bob Burke said once, you never stop promoting your book. Once it's out there, you always promote that. And this is it because it's not just about going, the book tours when your book is published, but it's so important to keep doing that. And people, they put your link, your Amazon link or whatever link your book on in the show notes and people can buy it. They can buy it today. They can buy it tomorrow, in 2 months, or 2 years later. It's so important. And please tag the host whenever you post on social media. Really, really important. So promoting this episode is crucial. And just being respectful and nice with the host, not nice, but kind, because there's a big difference between just being nice and kind. So be kind with the podcast host and just send a thank you note. It can be an email and it can be more personalized. You can send out cards. I know many podcast hosts does that. Sometimes I got even presents from podcast hosts after an interview, but you can do it yourself as a guest. Even if you just email that, like, thank you. I really enjoyed the conversation. I think the two things are so important, just following up after the episode. And this can be the beginning of a business relationship when you follow up or after the episode with the podcast host. Always consider staying in touch for future collaborations. You never know what can happen. You can be on each other's mastermind or private Facebook groups. You can invite each other. You can start a business relationship or friendship. And you can organize like a post-interview chat after the interview, how you can help, how you can serve each other.
I love that. And I think I can count on one hand how many thank yous I've had over the years which is sad, really.
Yeah.
I often send a thank you note. I don't always remember to do it, but I often send a thank you note to my guest for being on the show. Because, yes, again, I don't like to do the show all on my own. I love the interaction, even though people have said, well, why don't you do episodes where it's just you talking? I was like, yes. And I much prefer having a guest, and I find it more interesting. The conversation is very different than if I'm just talking. So, yeah, I love it. I think there's some great tips. And I think something that you said, which is critical for our listeners to really remember, that podcast guesting is a book marketing strategy.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a dynamite book marketing strategy. And it's free a certain amount of it is. Obviously, when they're working with an agency, when you're finding positions for them on the right kind of shows, yes, there's obviously a fee involved. But relatively speaking, it's low. When you look at what PR costs, I mean, yeah, I think well worth doing, ladies and gentlemen who are listening. What about talking about more about how you can promote the show? Where you would promote it on social media? Where else can you help promote the show?
If you have, for example, a blog, if you write a blog, if someone is author, obviously you love writing, and blog is not dead, because there's so many people talk about that blog is dead. No, blogging is not dead. I mean, if you have a blog, you can easily turn your podcast interview to a blog post. And now we have AI, we have ChatGPT, we have different AI tools. It takes seconds to, for example, you have the podcast interview, for example, on YouTube or whatever channel it's been recorded. You can take the transcript, you can turn it into an amazing blog post, and you can use that. Or if you have an email newsletter, you can send it to your subscribers. First, it can be a teaser that I'm going to be a podcast guest on this and that podcast, and it's going to be amazing. And check out the podcast, leave a rating and review for this show. And after, when your podcast episode is released, you can send another email to your email subscribers like, oh, I was a guest here and check it out. It was amazing. Maybe you take some golden nuggets, some key takeaways, you include that in your email, and bam. I mean, that's another type of content that you can use, not just relying on social media only. There's so many other opportunities out there that you can use. And I think blogging and email, they still go very strong.
One of the things that we do is that we give an embed code so people can put this on their website. So often, and especially speakers love this, that they put the podcast embedded on a media page, let's say, on their website, which gives the interview longevity as well. I mean, it isn't here today and gone tomorrow, but it's got a place on your website. And then, of course, we were talking about directories, Apple, Spotify. What are some of the other platforms? I know we're on all of them, but I can't remember them all. What are some of the other good platforms?
Obviously, YouTube. I mean, it's still the second largest search engine. So even if your podcast was an audio podcast, you can still use that. It doesn't matter. People will listen to it. So YouTube, definitely. As you mentioned, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. What else we got? There are.
I think we're on Audible. I know
Audible as well.
Amazon.
Oh, yes, you mentioned Amazon.
Yes, Amazon.
True.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are many out there. So,
exactly.
Beyond them. You're right. I always forget we are on YouTube as well. And even though it's an audio, we do put it up there. I mean, that's growing as well. All of these are worth it. I like the fact that you even mentioned rate the show. Go in and ask somebody to rate the show, which also helps.
Absolutely.
All of these little things. And keeping the contact with the host, because, as you said, you never know where this might lead.
Yeah, very true. And I know that podcast hosts work so hard. And like you have your 500th episode, which is amazing. It's a fantastic milestone. Other podcast hosts as well. And I think just leaving and rating the show is a must. I mean, it's a nice gesture. And when people get on the Apple podcast and they see that you have like 34, 50, 60 reviews, 5-star reviews, I mean, that really pushes the podcast up to the top. It really helps. And I think it's really important. And it's a form of respect again. You are a guest, and this is the least you can do.
I very rarely ask people to put a review up, but I'm blown away. I mean, we've got, I think, 60 or 70 on Apple, and I'm like, wow. I'm so grateful for everyone who's ever put up a review of the show, especially when it's a good one.
Especially that.
Especially that, yes. I can't ask for 5 stars, but if you happen to feel that way,
please.
This is a 5-star moment, Noemi, for you to share your contact information for our listeners, because you've shared some amazing information. So I'm sure that we're going to have people who want to know more about where they can find you.
Yes, please visit our website, which is podcastconnections, plural, .co, not com, CO. That's our website, and you can jump on that website and get in touch with us. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. That's kind of my jam, my space. And if you type my name in, Noemi Beres, there's a tiny microphone sign next to my name. That's me. Please get in touch with me and let's have a chat.
Lovely. I think we're linked on LinkedIn. I think you made that connection.
Yeah. I always do.
Yes, good. Because again, it's not something that's top of mind for me, but when people request it, I always accept, or usually
I will tag you in the post for sure.
Good. I appreciate that. Hey, we asked our guests now. We've gotten smart. We ask our guests if they're going to do that. Because obviously we want to make sure that we can get as much coverage as well for the show, which obviously helps. And as you know, Naomi, we always ask our guests to leave our listeners with a golden nugget. What's yours?
My golden nugget is usually my motto, which is just keep going. It's really important because when you start podcast guesting as an author, you can get some no's from podcast hosts. The market is really flooded with podcast guests right now. I know that so many podcast hosts getting 50 emails per week because people are pitching themselves to different podcasts. When you get your first no's, don't be discouraged. Just keep going. Just keep going, keep doing it because the right podcasts are coming and waiting for you. Just be consistent, be patient with yourself, and keep getting in touch with podcast hosts because after a few no's, the yeses will come too.
Yeah, that perseverance is definitely worthwhile. Just keep at it because, there's going to be a yes somewhere along the line. Yes. So I appreciate that. Some really wise words. And yes, of course, Noemi can help you do that, which will make it a lot easier because she knows the podcasts that you could get on. That's secret.
Yeah, the secret ingredient.
The secret ingredient is very helpful. Yes, you've got the knowledge. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. And listeners, if your book isn't selling the way you wanted or expected to, let's jump on a quick call together to brainstorm ways to ramp up those sales because you've invested a whole lot of time, money, and energy, and it's time you got the return you were hoping for. So go to bookmarketingbrainstorm.com to schedule your free call. And in the meantime, I hope this powerful interview sparks some ideas you can use to sell more books. Until next week, here's wishing you much book and author marketing success.